Speaking of fame, Mr.
Devo.
Devo.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Let's dive into it.
Let me
It's
get-
gonna be
Story.
interesting.
Let me get your autograph, Devo.
Okay, so
Let me, let's
yeah,
dive in.
right. I've been doing this for 6 months with you guys. So I picked up this nice new Samsung watch, a little
Look at
smart
you.
device. Who fun.
Podcast money coming in.
Yeah, no, I got it on Facebook Marketplace. Because you always got to find a good deal.
Good deal.
And I did get a good deal on this. I'm not gonna lie. I won't tell you how much I paid for it. But
950. We'll bleep it.
Yeah, 900. Yeah.
Just like
But they sell for $230. So like,
There you go.
whatever a good deal to you is, that's probably what I paid for it, right? Anyways, when I went to go pick it up, I met somebody off Facebook Marketplace, and he lived way out of the city, just past Selkirk, and I was like, well, I'm not gonna drive.
That's a hard.
Yeah, I'm not driving all the way out there. So I had to wait like a week to meet this guy, and I finally meet him at the Walmart in St. Vital, and I pull up, and as soon as I get out, like the first thing he says to me is like, "Oh, you're that podcast guy, aren't you?" I was like, "Yeah, actually I am. That's kind of weird. How'd you know?" Right? And he's just like, "Oh, my wife, she watches you all the time. She listens to you more than she listens to me nowadays." I friggin' cracked up. I was like, "Nice,
Let's
man."
go.
Yeah, I was very happy to hear that though, boys.
Wow.
Work's paying off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe it.
Couple of guys sitting in a room and talking. Like,
No, that's
Yeah.
crazy. That's a crazy story, especially someone out there. Hey, shout out to them.
And like to think, I've only been on 3 of the episodes
Yeah.
out of the 100+ episodes we have.
Yeah,
Like that's pretty wild, man.
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
We must be making some ripples, right?
hopefully.
Somebody's watching. I mean,
Yeah.
we're continuing to do this, so
Yeah.
somebody is watching out there.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. No, it was crazy. I had a similar story. It was, I think, the first or second week going back to university. I was coming to the locker change room after working out, and I had my headphones in, right? So I'm like tuned out of like society. And some guy, I walk into the change room. He's walking out. He turns around and looks at me. He's like, "Yo, you're that 204 Eyes guy." And I'm like, he's like, "204 Eyes." He's like, I didn't hear him the first time. He's like, "Yo, 204 Eyes." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"What's up, bro?" He's like,
Yeah.
"Yo, you're the 204 Eyes guy." And I'm like, yeah, I am.
Yep.
And he's like, "Man, I love your shit. I've been watching it since like day one." And I'm like, "Okay, name me an episode." He's like, I don't
Yeah, it's always hard when you put on the spot, right?
But no, he was like, "Man, I love what you guys do." And it was just like the love, the positivity. It was just, it's great. So
Well, that just feels good too, man. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I felt
course.
that made the fucking month. I was like, yeah,
There you go.
that's pretty wicked.
I remember the first time we ran into somebody who was like listening to our pod.
Yeah.
And it happened. I ran into them and they were listening at the same time. It was Kayla Giesbrecht, actually. A good friend. I hadn't seen her in years. And she was walking in Walmart. I was coming back from somewhere, I don't know. And I go, "Hey, how's it going?" And she goes, "This is weird, but I'm listening to your show right now," as I'm walking. And I remember like putting a voice note in the group chat. "Yo, guess what just happened?"
That's solid.
It's a great feeling. It's a great feeling.
Well, okay, I gotta say, I gotta point this out. Typically, when you start something, your friends and your family will support you right off the bat, but they're also some of the first people to fall off.
100%.
Typically, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they just forget about it altogether, and like whatever, it is what it is. You know that they love you, so it is what it is. But like, it's funny because when you start to see like your friends are actually like putting some interest into your stuff, you're like, okay, this is actually like I'm actually doing something here because like they're going out of their way to listen to it and stuff like that. They're not just like showing the support by liking it and fucking off, right? So it's nice, yeah.
Yeah. Recently got a lot of like, especially after the holiday video,
Yeah.
a lot of love. Just a lot of love.
Yeah.
Like there's no other way to describe it. Just love. Just so much. Everyone just showing, and especially it's weird because like in university you see a lot of people, and most of the time that's probably one of the first thing they bring up if you haven't seen them in a while, right? I see my friends every day, so it's like they know. But if I haven't seen somebody in a while, it's usually the first thing that comes to their mind, which is great. I love it. I cherish these moments because I know there's celebrities on the other end who get way too much of it, and
Yeah.
they start to hate it a little bit, but it's great. I will welcome it. for now.
It's like the proof of concept, right? Like what Robin's saying is about the brand surpassing your own name, which is super nice. Like I would walk up to friends that I haven't seen in a while, and before they say how are you, it's like how's the podcast doing?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, like that's
Great.
great. That's great.
That's good.
Yeah, no, the love is very felt.
Hmm. I mean, the podcast world. Speaking of podcast world, Joe Rogan re-signed his deal.
Yeah.
250 million. Re-signed his deal to Spotify.
Wow.
So he originally had $100 million deal for a certain amount of years. I guess that deal expired, and he re-signed for 250 million to Spotify. And so Spotify released some numbers, and they said like viewership for podcasts over the last whatever 2-3 years, however long his thing was up like 232%
Wow.
because he was exclusive to Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
And so that just shows the amount of pull that Joe Rogan himself has.
That's a lot. 200%, man.
Plus 200% over podcasts. Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I'm sure.
We're in the right industry is what I'm trying to say.
I'm still sure they were willing to write that check. They were like, oh yeah.
And what I heard, I don't know if this is true, but I heard some people talking about it in the sense that he could have gotten way more. But this was at a time when like COVID was kind of coming around, and
Yeah.
Joe Rogan was getting canceled for a bunch of stuff. And Spotify took a chance on them and said, listen, like, we'll take you.
Come on.
Yeah.
now.
Nobody else is taking you, so we'll take you. And he got like a lot of hate for some of the stuff that was
Oh,
going
yeah.
around. And Spotify was like, we'll take you. And so he could have gone somewhere else and gotten way more, but I think, I don't know, this is me, 2-3 guys sitting in a room and speculating here, but he wanted to show love, and yeah.
Well, you know what? Yeah, and I think they stood by him at the end of the day too, right? Like
Mhm.
they believed in his show and his podcast, and
Yeah.